girl.
That's true.
How you doing, Joe?
But they all love it. So it doesn't
You
really
got
matter
done?
if they have anything to say. Just knowing that, look, it's gonna be there. So when something comes up, I'm just waiting for it.
Yeah.
No, you're very good.
Joe, you coach?
Yeah.
Central.
All right, so
Ms. Kathy, you want to go ahead and start us off?
Yes. Nakia and I spoke today, and based on a conversation with Scott and Dr. Highlander as well, had some questions about some February board policies. So we think that it would be good for Dr. Highlander to identify the board policies that he believes that need to be discussed in collaborative conferencing prior to adopting the changes. And since the second readings for the February policies review are on the consent agenda, based on tonight's discussion, we would pull those policies Dr. Highlander identifies, and we will refer the March policy review discussion until the next policy committee meeting, if that's okay with the board.
So we're not talking about March?
No, if that's...
Okay, are you ready for me?
Do we need to identify those now here?
Do you want to identify those now, or would you like to pull them from the consent agenda at the meeting on Thursday?
We can do it either way. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I loan my car to someone else, and they have the numbers. It's the ones dealing with leave time. And while I looked at the law legally, we as a board are within our rights to go ahead and make editorial changes in that, as long as it doesn't impact them. But I think as far as our professionals would feel much better if we presented, let them look at it in conferencing. I don't see anything really, maybe one item other than the one that Scott pulled for me. But other than that one, I don't see any major problems in the way they're phrased. But I think in the spirit of cooperation, that we want goodwill from our teachers, and we want a good rapport. We want a good atmosphere. And I think if they could, most of them, I think, will fly through collaboration. They will just, but I think with respect to our teachers, it would be good if all the leave items are discussed.
Nakia, do you have anything to add to that?
Other than, I think, for the public and for us, when you said the ones that have to do with leave. So we have policy 5.300, short-term leaves of absence, 5.301, religious, emergency, and legal leave, 5.302, sick leave, 5.302, 2, bereavement leave, 5.303, personal and professional leave, 5.304, extended leaves of absence, 5.305, family and medical leave, 5.306, military leave, 5.307, physical assault leave, and we didn't have a change proposed to that one, and then 5.308, sabbatical leave, 5.309, legislative leave. So all the ones that say leave, I think that's about 8 of them. We would pull those from the consent agenda.
I would appreciate that in deference to our teachers and trying to establish positive morale. Thank you.
Yes, and I also wanted to bring up, we are going to ask for a slight revision based on the conversation with Scott around 5.202. Concerning hold on, let me make sure I get it right.
Classified?
Yes, 5.202, the classified, suspension dismissal of classified employees. We're going to make a small edit in language that says, instead of just the superintendent or designee, the superintendent or the chief talent officer. And then we also had one slight revision to policy coming out of second read, fiscal policy 2.402, where we had talked about the language for FDIC, and we do have some schools with balances that may be in excess of FDIC allowances, so we want to update the language to reflect that as well with those second reads. So we will supply amended versions of those for your consideration on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kathy, can I ask a question about another one that I think is going to be on second read? This creation of positions and lines of authority. Maybe we discussed this at the last meeting. I can't remember. But this deleted will present to the board being deleted off of that. Was that presented the last time, or has this been a change since the first read? Or was that on there the first time? Did I just miss that?
Ms. Thurman, what number are you talking about? 'Cause
Okay,
I'd like
I'm
to see.
sorry. It's 5.101. The more that I look at this, I'm thinking, well, who are you going to present it to if it's not to the board? It says we'll present. It says the director of the schools will present to the board. It says the director of schools a job description. Okay, just says to delete will present to the board. Doesn't read very well. Will present to the board. Take that out, and then it just reads the director of schools a job description required qualifications. The director of schools, that doesn't read very well. So if he's not going to present it to the board, who do they present it to? And
Could I ask a question when you?
So the way what the intent was, and I'll go back and check the policy words exactly. So was to ensure a job description was established, and then that those responsibilities will be evaluated and are available for the board to review.
okay.
So the intent's not that the board would be excluded from looking at a job description, is that we try and really.
So it says it will be available for us to review, but you wouldn't present. You would just go ahead and get the job description and then tell us after they're hired, or
No, you would still approve the new positions prior to. All we're saying is that, and I actually the new positions I've seen presented since I've been here, we've not presented a job description with those.
I know, you're right, you haven't. You're correct, nor a salary, nor how we're going to pay for it. Yeah, you're correct. Now, like I say, I just want to be sure that we're all on the same page with how this is going to read. And like I said, I just want it to be just real clear. It'll be evaluated and available for board. Okay, after it's responsible to be evaluated. Okay, and
Ms.
available
Thurman,
for the board to review. Yeah.
I'm just asking
Yeah.
because that was new to me too. Read down a little bit further and tell me if that I think the last sentence may cover it, but you just tell me if that says while the director of schools has the authority to reorganize the structure of the school system from time to time, no such reorganization will have any impact on the budget without prior approval of the board.
Yeah, but see, I would just hate to call anybody's name, so I put my hand on my heart and I'll say Jesse Register. He used to do this all the time, but because of this line right here, he thought he could move positions anywhere as long as it was budget neutral. And that's not the way I read that. Regardless of whether it's budget neutral or whether it's not, we should be able to approve those positions. So that's why I just wanted to be sure, Joe. I'm with you. Maybe it's clear with everybody else. I just want to be sure that we don't, fall on our own sword here.
This is referring to new positions added after the budget's presented. Is that correct? Is that right, Dr. Johnson?
No, of course.
Okay. Yeah, and thank you, Keith, for doing that. Well, I think Ms. Thurman's right. We have been a little remiss lately. You guys probably weren't maybe not even been aware that we've done that in the past. And thank you for doing that in the future.
Thank you.
Ms. Lynn, you got anything else on it?
No, if we can just make note that we'll pull those from the consent agenda at the board meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
And we'll send that list to Sherry.
Yes. Okay, if we pull those, when will the teachers meet about that, and will they?
Yeah, so we've got several over the next few weeks, and so we'll bring them to them. Realistically, we're probably looking at May.
Okay, so they will approve the changes that we've seen.
Correct, or give feedback around them,
Get
and then
feedback from them.
we'd bring them back to you all to
Okay.
see any edits that are there.
And just to be clear, because I know we mentioned those 8 policies and they all had leave in the title. Are there any other there that address leave that maybe leave is not in the title? I mean, was there anything like that?
There's one that we've already pulled.
Okay.
There's one we've already pulled, correct? On the first read.
Yeah, the 5.202, I think, yes.
Well, no, that 5.202 was classified employees.
Right.
And so that wasn't under PECA. We have asked, and we'll follow up with Scott Bennett on this, that we need his advisement. Your leave is mentioned all over our policies. There's cross references. And so we're trying to get more specific guidance on where it is that we should defer to the collaborative conferencing process. So we'll have the plan is to have a follow-up meeting with Dr. Highlander, Mr. Bennett, Ms. Lennon, and myself, and we can scrub and figure out, because there's some more personnel-related policies that are coming up that are on the March list, so that we can understand which of those that they want to have the HCEA weigh in on.
Just for sake of our media, we're not going to bring those 2 board members together at the same time.
Oh, well, yes. Well, we'd have to notice it. Yeah.
We do a policy, maybe a policy
meeting. Right.
And I would like to make note that I think that we're in really good shape noticing that these policies haven't been reviewed, a lot of them since 04, 07, 012. So we're really in good shape with the policies, even though we're having to pull some of these from the consent agenda. So I think we're doing very well overall.
Thank you for your work.
No, that's it. Let's move forward.
Is that board policy document?
All right, so we're going to go ahead with the agenda review, and then, guys, we may, okay, all right, okay. Our transportation folks are going to come in, and we may go ahead and do that now since they're here. Yeah, maybe flip the order here. All right, let's give them a second to come in the door and catch their breath.
You had to. No, they're 2 different things. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. They'll be way down here. That's one part. Right. They have to be 30.
Chris would be smacking me.
I'm just like all of us. Perfect. Makes me happy.
What sign you up? Good sign you up.
Yes, I did. I forgot I did that actually. Forgot about that. She has to eat myself.
I do. I have indigestion. My time out at 6:30, I'm just being honest. I eat at 6:30, I'm not drinking it though.
All right, guys, I think we're ready to go. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bradshaw and let him take it from here and introduce the folks that are here.
Okay, board chair, members of the board, Dr. Johnson, we bring to you this evening two presenters, Durham first, then first student, who will provide you information about the services that they can provide. Before the presenters come forward, Mr. Byron Hendrick from Lean Frog will provide us with a brief update on the RFP process, which has led us to this point.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Won't be long, but I'd like to make you aware of where we're at and what's going on with the process. Since the release of the RFP, we directly contacted 6 other vendors other than Durham. After those conversations, they requested copies of the RFP. Those were sent. We also posted the RFP on 7 national and regional RFP listing services to broadcast that RFP for us. That effort led to us having 3 responses to the RFP. One of those responders, after answering, going through the question and answer period, decided not to continue the process, which leaves us with 2 responders. Tonight, we invited those responders to come and do an information-only presentation to the board. The evaluation process has not been completed. We are still in the middle of that evaluation process. So I want to stress to the board that the presentation is just to let the board see some of the materials that the team is seeing, but you have to be very limited in some of the questions you may ask, because we don't want to throw out or nullify the RFP process that we're in the middle of right now. So be cautious if you have questions going forward with that. We have and are continuing to look at future type situations. We're exploring other options, long-term options for the district. Not only use of contractors, but do we long-term, beyond the scope of this RFP, do we look at bringing in individual contractors? Do we expand contractors? Do we bring things in-house? Do we do some hybrid model of those? We are looking at costing and timelines for those, and we'll be happy to share that information with you at another time when we've got that information. Again, that's in the future, though. Immediately, we have this need for this RFP. Again, I'll stress before I bring Durham up, we're bringing Durham up first because it's alphabetic order. That's what we're doing, just to be fair. First student's not in the room. We're going to let each one speak. You'll have some time. But again, I stress we are in the process of that evaluation, so be thoughtful of that when we start asking those questions and what they can respond to. Any questions of me while I'm here? Okay, then we'll let Durham get started.
What's okay and what's not okay? Or is this truly just listening? Scott's not here to tell us.
Yeah, so, our normal process with RFPs is we normally bring a recommendation
Right.
for the board to thumb up or thumb down because of the magnitude really of this and all that's going on. We have asked the two responders to come for informational purposes to share. And so, to say what's thumbs up and thumbs down to ask, I think we should be very thoughtful about it. I know that's not really answering what's there, but I think if it's connected to what they present, if it's connected to what they present this evening, I think that's more than appropriate. General information, the granular aspects of what's within that RFP, I think we got to be thoughtful about. Yeah.
You don't want us to bring up past history with either group? Okay. We have history with both of them, so.
Let me just ask this to make sure I understood. Lean Frog just told us that there were 6 vendors that requested RFPs. Did I hear that right?
Yes, sir.
So, in an idea, how many vendors are there out there that can handle this job? 3. In total. Well, I know we only had 2 responders, but how many could have responded or would have been able to handle this job?
I said that before.
I'm sorry.
As we discussed earlier, there's only a handful of national companies big enough. There are some regional companies that could have stepped up that chose not to. I was hoping for us to have a minimum of 4. As a matter of fact, when we did reach out to those individuals, we had other people express interest and speak to the fact that they were going to respond, and then after they saw the requirements, they chose not to.
So I guess just what I wanted to somehow point out, maybe I should have just said it out right. There's just not many of them out there.
Less than 10.
Okay. All right. That's what I wanted to hear.
Okay.
Could I ask you a question? You referred to regional. Are you thinking in the future possibly going piecemeal, like sectioning off portions of it to certain contractors? Was that your implication?
When I was just talking about regional there, I was looking at smaller local firms that may be able to do it. That's not what for the long-term future. We've been asked to look at all types of situations and kind of put some costing together for the board. And so we're in the process of doing that as well.
When I looked online, I only saw 3, possibly up to 5 or 6, but only 3 at the national level that could come in with that many buses available immediately and do it. I mean, it's very limited. Am I correct?
I would say more than 3, but yes, it is limited.
I said 3 for sure, but maybe up to no more than 6. As long, I couldn't find more than 6.
I could say, again, we found 6 that were actually wanted the RFP. Okay. We contacted a few more than that, but we had 4 that requested the RFP, and we sent it to.
So you're not looking at breaking up to smaller units right now?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is John Elliott Jr. I'm the Senior Vice President for Business Development for National Express Durham School Services. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to visit with you all this evening. With me, the team that we have brought is Mr. Gary Waits, our CEO, Chief Executive Officer, Karina Noble, our Senior Vice President of Communications and External Affairs, Tony Bartlett, our Senior Vice President of Operations, Dave Brabender, our Regional Manager, and Bob Ramsdell, our Chief Safety Officer. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Bob.
Thank you. With the limited time we have tonight, we want to talk to you about safety. We know it's important to you. It's very important to us as well. I joined the company in 1997 and was responsible for safety from 97 until 2011 when I went into an operating role. In the weeks following the accident in November of 2016, I was asked to return as the Chief Safety Officer to a safety-specific role. The impact of that accident on the children and the families of those involved can't be measured. And certainly the community, Hamilton County Schools, I can't describe it. It certainly had an impact on our organization as well. And it's been my goal and my mission to improve our safety program from where it was then to continue to improve it moving forward. So I want to focus our attention on safety, as I mentioned. What I'm showing you on slide 2, Target Zero, that is our challenge our CEO issued to us as an organization to implement policies and procedures that would prevent any similar tragedy from ever happening again. In the months following the accident, we implemented global safety policies in the area of speeding, driver monitoring, driver evaluation, and driver performance management. And we looked at ways to improve our overall safety program. I want to provide a little more detail on the program itself. On slide 3, you'll see safety policies and procedures. Even at the time of the accident, we had industry-leading safety policies in the area of driver screening, selection, and training. The opportunity we identified following the accident was to improve our tools and resources to manage driver performance when they're on the road. In the weeks following the accident, David Duke, our CEO at the time, committed to 3 things. Committed to appointing a chief safety officer, which is the role I took, implementing DriveCam across the North American fleet for Durham School Services, starting with Hamilton County, and thirdly, implementing a complaint management system, which was done. We didn't stop with those initial commitments, though. We went on to implement procedures around speed reduction. We implemented a driver safety scorecard, a zero-tolerance approach to mobile device use, some additional monitoring of our drivers' safety records, electronic driver qualification systems, and accident reduction. I want to go a little bit more detail on 3 of those tools and then tell you about the driver safety scorecard, which pulls them together. And then at the end, I'll talk about 3 additional screening tools that we implemented. To begin with, I want to talk about DriveCam. And DriveCam was implemented in Hamilton County in January of 2017. And the best thing about DriveCam is that it enables us to address problem driving behavior before an accident or an injury occurs. It's in addition to the CCTV system that we had in place at the time of the accident, and it's a smart camera system that's triggered by G-forces, forward or lateral G-forces. When those G-force events occur, it captures 12 seconds of video, 8 seconds prior to the G-force event and 4 seconds after. It gives us a view inside the bus at the driver and outside the bus as well. It also captures the speed and the location of the bus. Each of those events is reviewed by an external party that identifies whether or not there were any coachable events that occurred, any behaviors by the driver that, if repeated, could lead to an accident or an injury. Within 24 to 48 hours, those coachable events are emailed directly to our general manager for them to review, and with the management team to bring those drivers in and do coaching. Drivers with those events receive coaching and retraining if necessary, and one of the things that is measured with DriveCam is coaching effectiveness. And we have a very high rate of events that don't repeat within 60 days. And overall, that has made our system safer. You see in the picture there what it looks like from a video perspective, inside at the driver and outside the vehicle as well. The next system I want to talk about is Bus Report. it was very important that we have a system that can capture all the feedback we receive from the community or from parents or from other motorists, any complaint. Bus Report captures it all in a cloud-based system in one place, so everybody at the location can see it. It first goes to our general manager, who triages the event or the feedback and decides who's best to investigate it on her team. She sends it to them, and then they investigate. Any event or any complaint related to safety or any serious complaint is also immediately sent to the region manager, Dave Brabender, for him to be aware of. The entire executive team, anyone who has access to the system, can track progress on events, and there's an escalation process. So if something isn't resolved in a timely manner, it goes to the next level of management. And then we are able to look at all the data and run reports to see any trends that there might be. Any event that is not tracked within us or completed within a certain amount of time, again, we can escalate. So Bus Report has changed the way we manage feedback from our community about the drivers. Speed management is the next item on page 6. We've greatly improved our speed reports and speed processes. Daily speed reports are available for general managers to review and the management team. The incidents are investigated, and employees with valid events are coached and trained and subject to progressive discipline. As an organization, using these tools, we reduced speeding by 56% in 2017 and an additional 38% in 2018. The results in Hamilton County are even better, where we saw a 96% reduction in speeding events from the fourth quarter of 2016 to today. And as you can see in the graph depicted below, it's been a sustained result. We're continuing to look for better and more improved speed reduction techniques. We're testing different things because it's something that's very important to us. The item I wanted to talk about that brings it all together is the driver scorecard. It's important that we manage each incident as it occurs, whether it be an accident or a speed event, a drive cam event, or a complaint. What the driver scorecard does is it provides a holistic view of the driver's overall performance. It ranks our drivers based on key performance areas, including preventable accidents, speeding duration, safety complaints, drive cam activity, and years of service. From that ranking, we identify those drivers that, while the individual events have been coached, may be in need of some additional coaching, and we bring them in on a monthly basis. That information is tracked and reviewed each month. At the end of the process, the general manager sends a confirmation email to Dave Brabender letting him know that she has reviewed all the drivers and all the drivers on the road are fit and safe for duty. Dave then certifies to Tony, his supervisor, that his region is done. Tony sends a confirmation to Gary. So we have this process to make sure that this is repeated on a regular basis. This was implemented in the fall of 2018, and it gives us, again, that holistic view of our driver performance and one more coaching opportunity to ensure we have the right drivers on the road. I mentioned some additional monitoring tools. We felt that our monitoring tools for hiring and screening were strong, but we thought we should improve everywhere we could. So we implemented something called Samba Safety, which monitors motor vehicle record activity. Anytime a driver has a citation, instead of waiting for their annual motor vehicle record pull, we get notified via email that something has happened and we could bring the driver in and address it. The next thing we implemented was a physical exam review. In addition to the doctor that reviews and completes the physical, we have a second doctor review the physical to make sure no mistakes are made and everyone is medically qualified to operate the bus. And last, we have something called SIDLIS Plus, which reviews all motor vehicle records for applicants, not just at the state that they're living in today, but any other state. So we get a complete view of the driver's record. Ultimately, accident reduction in terms of frequency and severity is what matters most. And what you see on slide 9 is the frequency of preventable accidents that involve bodily injury. And you can see we've made tremendous progress in that regard. While safety is all of our top priorities and it's most important, I also recognize that it's not the only criteria for your selection and review of the RFP. So I would like to invite Gary Waits, our CEO, to come up and speak to you for a moment to close.
Thanks, Bob. To close, I just want to make a few key points about our proposal. As Bob just took you through, we're industry leading when it comes to safety technology, processes, and people. We've got an experienced management team that understands the needs of Hamilton County. I know you're not looking for the lowest cost with this process, but you're looking for the best value. With our technology, systems, and processes, we're not only the most economical, but also provide the greatest value to Hamilton County. And lastly, I'd say, before November 2016, we were an industry leader in safety. With what we've done in the last 28 months, starting right here in Hamilton County, we are now the industry leader when it comes to safety. We're committed to Hamilton County. In fact, there's no one more invested and committed to providing safe student transportation in Hamilton County than we are. Thank you for the opportunity tonight.
Anybody have a comment, question? All right.
Just real briefly, your home company is still in London, right? It's still in England? Your parent company?
That's correct.
I would just say when I met with the I've forgotten his name, the Lord that came from the House of Lords that came, he was very interested in promoting safety, and we do appreciate the efforts that you've made.
Thank you.
And I know the home company has backed you to the hilt on that, I believe, have they not?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Everything that we've needed, they've provided.
Ms. Lennon.
I have a question, and I thank you so much for talking so much about the safety, because that is the most important thing. But another thing that comes up a lot with the principals in District 2 is the behavior of the children. Of course, at the end of the day, they're a little bit rowdy when they're on the bus. And they have asked, if there's something, we talk about coaching all the time, if possibly there could be some type of coaching for the bus drivers on how to deal with children's behavior. That might be something that would be a good, beneficial for bus drivers, because it's hard, especially at the end of the day when kids have been in class all day long. And it's one of the things that principals sometimes have a hard time when they talk to a bus driver about the behavior, and the bus driver really can't pinpoint exactly what it is because they don't understand it. So maybe having some type of a almost professional development for bus drivers around children's behavior and how to deal with that.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to know how you felt about that.
Yeah, Bob, would you like to talk about
I would, thank you. It's certainly very, very important to overall school bus safety, and we do provide training during the initial training for our drivers. We also cover it at the startup meeting and also during monthly safety meetings. It's really a partnership that takes place between the building administration and our driver and our management team, and we have seen some improvement in that partnership and the communication, and we want to continue that and continue to look for better tools to give our drivers to manage student behavior.
May I ask what types of training is given and who are the professionals that are administrating that training?
The training was done at our local level by the general manager and by the safety and training supervisor using company materials, and also School Bus Safety Company is the name of the training program that we use. So we have a combination of materials we developed ourselves and also materials we bought from an industry leader for school bus safety training.
Dr. Highlander.
Thank you. I went through the school bus driver safety training that the Tennessee State Highway Patrol put on today, and Ms. Landon, I think you have a very good point, and that was one of the things the state trooper brought up is management. But I think a lot of people need to understand, once the wheels are turning, that bus driver must watch the road and not the children. So he or she can get to a safe place, and then deal with talking with children about more safe procedures. But just obviously, the safety of the child when the bus is en route is the preeminent safety is not to be hit by another vehicle. And so, and they did say that the state trooper even brought up in their training session with our school bus drivers today that at the end of the day, it is obviously they are excited. They've been sitting in seats. They want to go home. But several points were brought up that were actually had videos and things of people who, if a bus driver is able to have a good relationship with those children, as a father or mother or uncle, aunt or grandfather or whatever, grandmother. But it mixed a really bad wreck that took place in Indiana. There were 41 children on board, and it was they were hit head on really hard by a pickup truck so bad that it sheared the front left wheel and the bus was almost turned over. When you looked at the video cam, the bus driver, the kids got up immediately. The bus driver said, "No, for safety's sake, young people, sit back down." All 41 sat, one minor injury. And it was a massive wreck. And because of good, it's like Mrs. Lennon said, because of good control, it made all the difference in the world. Had the children been sitting up out of their seats, running around, it would have been very dangerous. So thank you, Ms. Lennon. I think it's a very good, valid point.
Anybody else? Mr. McClendon.
Reading through the RFP, what are some of the KPIs y'all go off of? I know there's several for maintenance and stuff. One of the biggest concerns from my teachers and my principals in my district have been on-time rates, and I know they hover around that 92 to 94% area on the data that I've seen. But that's still, you're talking 10 to 20 buses a day that are late. You're talking 300 students. So what are some of the KPIs y'all kind of look at, and how do you address being efficient with our kids on the bus?
I'll start, and I'll have Dave, who is our region manager, speak to the specifics in Hamilton County. One of the key KPIs we look at is time leaving the lot, because if they leave the lot on time, they're more likely to be on time on the road. And once they leave the lot on time, that's what they control. From that point on, we tell them to drive safely and put safety first and schedule second. But Dave, if you want to speak to Hamilton County specifically.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. For Hamilton County, there's a couple different issues that are caused, and part of it is driver shortage. That causes buses to run late. When you're struggling to get people to drive. So you end up doubling up some routes. That causes some buses to be late. Others is traffic. The traffic in Hamilton County on any given day can cause multiple buses to be late. One accident can shut down a whole road, which really causes the problem. So it's a multitude of different things. But as far as KPIs, we're watching, like Bob said, we're watching what time they leave the yard, but we're also looking at, because you got multiple tiers, right? So did they get to their first tier on time? Because if you get late on your first tier, chances are pretty good you're probably going to be late going down all to the next schools because of that. So again, you look at the first tier, second tier, third tier, seeing where there's issues. It may be a routing issue. You adjust them and go from there.
Just going off that, if down the road we continue our relationship, what are you going to do about the driver shortage? If that's a big problem and causing problems right now, it's going to cause problems down the road. Right. And I didn't see anything that addressed that in the RFP.
So there's a couple of the economy in Chattanooga is very, very good, which makes it very difficult to hire people because our job is really a part-time job. And they're looking for full-time benefits, full-time work. And our job doesn't provide that for them. So it's getting the right person that the job fits. But it's also, you talked about student management, making sure that, if the kids are out of control, a lot of people are not going to want to take that on. So we're getting that under control. Something that I can't talk about is what we may be doing with increases in their wages, because we're currently in negotiations with the union. So I can't go into that, but we are working at from that angle also. So there's multiple angles that we have to look at, and one is student management, figuring out a way to get the right people in the seats that the job fits, and then the other part is the financial piece of it.
One thing I'd add on the sourcing of candidates, we have an electronic system called Taleo, which tracks every applicant. So we know every person hired in the last 2 years, where they came from and what source. And by doing that, we're able to focus our efforts on those that bring the right type of candidates in, those that tend to stay with us. So I believe that combined with the negotiations and the impact that will have on starting wage will have an impact in bringing drivers in.
Dr. Highlander.
Would it be appropriate to ask what your procedure is when you say today you were short 8 drivers today, I believe?
Yeah, just at our Tanner lot, we had 8 people call outs with the flu. Yeah.
Right, and we understand. Dr. Johnson's had to look at the system. Correct me, Doctor, with a lot of teachers out with the flu, or if a driver's child has the flu, and can't go to school, someone has to stay with the child, and so we understand that. What's your procedure if you're several drivers short? Do you have supervisors driving? Do you hire the contract drivers to cover after their loads run, or all of the above?
It's pretty much all of the above, but the main thing you start out with is looking ways to double routes. There are some ways that you can move things around a little bit and double up routes. That's the first way to do it. And if you after that, we try not to have supervisors, because if they're on the street, they're not answering the phones. It just compounds it, right? So we try not to have them drive. We try to find other ways to make all that work together. But it's kind of like a big puzzle. You're moving pieces to fit it all together when you have that many call-outs.
You do sometimes hire contract drivers to run also?
We've had contract drivers fill in for us, and just like we've filled in for them at an occasion. We kind of try to all work together.
Rub each other. Thank you.
What's the starting wage?
Currently, it's $15.25.
Okay, and after they have experience, and what's the range?
So it's basically, it starts at $15.25 currently and goes to $19.25 right now.
What was the wage before our last agreement? Because I know we raised, or you guys looked at raising the wage considerably. What was it before that? You remember?
It would have been right around the $13 mark.
13. Okay.
Give or take a little bit, yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Thank you all so much for your time. We greatly appreciate you coming. Thank you very much.
How many hours a week?
About how many hours a week do the average driver, right?
Pardon me?
Approximately how many hours? I know it varies according to route, but what's the spectrum?
So the minimum they get is 5.5. That's a guaranteed 5.5. But on average, they're getting around 6, a little bit over 6. A day. I'm sorry. Yeah, a day.
30 hours.
Approximately. There's some that get a little more, some get a little less, but the minimum is 5.5 a day. You're welcome.
Sorry to hold you up.
No problem. Thank you.
You came prepared. How long is our meeting? When you came prepared, how long is the meeting? My name is Ella. Can you get Are you going to be here? So when they say collaborative conferencing, that's completely new to Board of Education. So that's the only thing that comes up. That's like kind of okay. Under the like a law. That's what we'll do. So far, in the last week,
Hi there. Welcome. Yeah. Let me pass these up to the board.
Okay.
This is her school board. So do you need none of these? Well, you're right here. Yeah.
Well, I do this part time. I work for Marine State. So I do education and saving and all of that. Was it with the Empower program, Alan, maybe him talk about different things you can do in your house to save money? I think it was over. Yeah. Yeah, we do it there with them from CPA gives us these kits and ATV, the prompting, other stuff that we need.
All right, Dr. Bradshaw, you want to introduce these folks to us?
Yes, sir. First student is prepared to present at this time.
Yes.
It's all yours, sir.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Fred Smith. I'm Director of Business Development for First Student. I have with me here several members of our team that are going to go through a very short presentation for you, and afterwards we'll be prepared to answer some questions. We've got with us today Dennis Maple, who's our company president, Darrell Hill is our Senior Vice President for Safety, myself, Sean Albright, who's the Area General Manager, and Anita Brown, who's the Location Manager for Dalton, Georgia. At this point, I'll bring up Mr. Maple. He's got some few comments for you.
Great, thanks. Good evening, everybody. As Fred said just a moment ago, my name is Dennis Maple. It's a real privilege to be here. I'm actually, I don't live here anymore, but I'm actually from Tennessee. I grew up in Memphis, and I'm a volunteer, so we'll start off with that. We're excited to be here, and we're excited for a number of reasons. You know, what I'd like to do, first of all, is tell you about First Student as an organization. I know that at one point in time, we provided services to this district. A lot has actually changed since we were here, and that was probably, I'm guessing, at least 10 years ago. So during that time, we've had a number of acquisitions, and we've really evolved not only the operating model, but the way that we go to market in general. But just to give you a little bit of context, First Student runs roughly 42,000 buses. We run approximately 50,000 routes every day, and we transport approximately 5 million passengers every day. So if you take all of our competitors, you take Durham, you take the next group of companies that compete in the space, the next 5 competitors are still smaller than the network of drivers and routes and passengers that we transport every day. Now, the question is, why should scale matter? Well, scale matters because our experience over the course of a day is greater than the experience of the entire industry. So we take seriously the partnership that we create with the communities in which we serve. We recognize that operating performance or on-time delivery, the quality of the drivers, the training that the drivers receive over time, but importantly, the safety that we instill in the organization is absolutely critical. Now, obviously, I've been in this industry for a number of years now. I am well aware of the tragedy that occurred here November 20th a number of years ago. And quite honestly, one of the things we wanted to think about in coming here to talk to you is how do we demonstrate to you our willingness to partner with this community to reestablish the kind of credibility that's important for parents when they have kids that are riding buses. So we'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. But again, my role here today was really to talk about the size and the scale and what I believe that means to a community like Chattanooga, where we can come in, we can partner with you and do things that perhaps can be done better. The next page, if we can go to it, please. And I think this page is really important to talk about just briefly, because the mission of this school community and this district is all about the well-being, safety, and maturation of kids. And so when we as a company talk about what's important to us, we talk about the importance of creating an environment and a culture in our company where people are extremely sensitive and focused on the well-being of kids. So our training is geared that way. We do things we teach our drivers how to be safe. We teach them how to be on time. But importantly, we teach them about conflict resolution and how they engage with students to make sure that that interaction is appropriate and that we make kids and parents and school administrators feel safe and feel confident that we will get their kids to and from school safely each and every day. If we look at the next page, this really just talks a little bit about what has happened in this organization over the last 11 to 12 years. I have been here now for the last 5 years as a president of this company for all of North America. Our holding company, which is based in the UK, really has a pretty much hands-off approach to the U.S. divisions. We actually run the business here locally. We operate in 40 states now and 7 or 8 provinces in Canada, and we have full responsibility. So we're not dependent upon someone that is, many, many miles away. We actually run our business here in North America, and we have full responsibility for that, and also full autonomy, which I think is really important as well. If we need resources, we need support, we certainly can go to the UK for that, but it's important for you to recognize and understand that we believe having people here is really critical for our ability to be able to drive the kind of solutions and outcomes that you guys want. But these are the things that we've done: driver efficiency, maintenance efficiency. And one thing I'll say about maintenance, if you look at the Department of Transportation website, you'll see that their rating of first student is best in class. And the reason that should matter is because part of the reason that people and buses don't perform as anticipated is around the quality of the way that the fleet is maintained. We actually run a 99% preventative maintenance performance, which basically says in the time that we are scheduled to do the maintenance, what is the period of time before that's done. So our record is 99% on a North American basis, which I think when you contemplate that we have 42,000 buses, that's quite a task in and of itself, but we're very successful at that. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, we have one more here. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we wanted to break up our proposal into 4 separate areas, and we're going to ask members of our team come up and talk about these areas. People, what we do with regard to training and how we engage and build a culture with our people. We'll talk about the equipment that's proposed in this proposal. We'll talk about technology, and what's interesting about the technology, everybody likes to talk about technology, but let me say this. First Student has been, because of our size and scale, the pioneer in technology since we started running buses. And we've been operating since 1995. And in fact, all of our competitors, so the folks at Durham, The folks at STA and a number of other places are actually former employees of First Student. So a lot of what they do, we already know about it because they were doing it here when they were here. And we've continued to try to elevate our game and elevate the way that we provide service and elevate the way that we partner with communities and elevate the way that we train our employees and elevate, what goes into the buses that we're using to transport kids around America. So I recognize that everybody talks about technology, but to be clear, we have the most technology and we have the most interest in making sure as the market leader that we continue to be on the cutting edge to the extent that we can. So we're going to have Sean. We're going to start with safety, and we'll have Daryl Hill come up and provide some commentary. Daryl Hill is our Senior Vice President of Safety. So we have a complete, and Daryl perhaps should spend just a few minutes talking about his safety organization. But we have a North American organization, and by the way, this is not a new organization. We have had a centralized safety organization that's separate and apart from the operating team. And the reason this is important is because the safety organization in our company can shut down any operation. They can impact the people that are leading any operation. They can impact a driver no matter who it is. They're not beholden to the operating team. They report to me directly. So if the safety organization says, we don't like what we see, we don't like what they're doing, these guys have the opportunity to make whatever difference they choose to make. Daryl is legitimately an expert in the field. He came to us approximately 15 months ago. Daryl he's a teacher. He may not tell you that. He's written books on the subject of safety, and he lectures consistently across the country about the importance of safety. So the safety organization that we have, I think, is best in class. And anyway, let's turn it over to Daryl.
Thank you, Dennis. Good evening, everyone. It's truly an honor and pleasure just to say a few words about our health and safety process at First Student. If we look at the first slide, I think there's two key points that I just want to highlight. And you can see some of the important metrics that will demonstrate that First Student is a leader in safety in the school bus transportation industry. The first three metrics you will see that highlights our overall safety process performance as it relates to our competitors. I think one of the key metrics that I do want to highlight is the third metric, which is the experience modification rate of 0.82. And that metric is consistent across all of the insurance and underwriter industry as it does measure safety performance with companies that are in the same industry. So the 0.82 with 1.0 being the average for safety performance across all of the school bus transportation industries. So we're really proud about our performance and achievement in that area. I also want to highlight a key point that you saw in the previous slide as Dennis presented. It was actually the fourth point, that even though we are a leader in safety performance as you look at our metrics, but continuous improvement is very critical and is foremost in everything that we do in safety, because we know that we can never be complacent, and we know that we have to always continue to strive for implementing best practices and innovative approaches to safety. The last 2 points I just want to highlight that we were the only school bus transportation company that was invited and accepted in the Campbell Institute, which is a leading EHS organization within the National Safety Council that only accepts members based upon not only their safety performance, but their innovative approach to safety and health. On the next slide, I just really want to highlight a few key points on driver training, because I think as everyone is familiar in this room that it really starts with driver training, and to have an effective driver training process that really impacts your overall safety performance. And as noted on the screen, you see that our training actually is optimized for the adult learner. We have an intense 40-hour behind the wheel and classroom training process process that I believe is a leader in the industry. And the last point, the Kirkpatrick model of training, is that our training utilizes that approach that we can evaluate our training effectiveness. We can measure the reaction of our training by our candidates, as well as the training competencies, as well as behaviors and results. So it's a very holistic approach to how we model our training process. We also are evaluating DriveCam and Smart Drive. We know that that's technology that's important. We'll talk a little bit later about daily dispatch and how we deploy daily dispatch to look at key metrics around rapid acceleration, hard braking, and speeding. I think it's also important to note that we have a very robust in-service training program that looks at student behavior, also de-escalation processes, that we continuously interface with our drivers on an ongoing basis, so they are well equipped and knowledgeable on how they can have a safe process in terms of delivering the children to their destination. And then the last point I just want to highlight, I'm not going to go over each of these points, but hopefully it provides the breadth and the depth of our overall safety processes. We are partnering with the security team to look at an area of growing concern around assaults, and we have a very robust process around that area. Rigorous background checks and extensive driver training that I already alluded to, as well as some of the other technology that we'll talk about a little bit later. So I just want to say in conclusion and just highlight a point that was previously stated, is that you have our full commitment. It is a partnership between the contractor company as well as the school district and the parents. And I can give you my commitment that we'll be actively engaged in the process throughout. So I'll turn it over to our next team member. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Sean Albright. I'm the area general manager with First Student for the South Atlantic region. That would actually encompass, hopefully at some point in time, this location. I've been with the company 23 years, and in 2 weeks it'll be 24 years. So a little bit of experience and a lot of gray hair. But my role is just to take you through the remaining piece of our proposal. We had 4 major components, as Dennis said: people, equipment, technology, and safety. Daryl talked about safety. I'd just like to go high level, what the transition would be like for the remaining. If it came to pass, obviously one of the biggest questions you would have would how would a transition go? Recruiting a large number of drivers, obviously there's some apprehension. Very excited. We've got a very aggressive wage package that we're looking to instill here in the area. We've got a starting wage, $15.75 for new hire drivers, maxing up to $19.88. We're also going to do a $500 sign-on bonus for any driver that comes over from the incumbent, as well as offering $500 referral bonuses. So if a driver comes over, joins our team, and can refer another driver, there's an additional opportunity for them to make money as well. We will also offer a benefit package, and when it comes to people and partnerships, we were looking to do an annual $10,000 educational contribution. When it comes to technology, we think we were the top of the line. One of the things we're most excited to offer is a program called First View. We will give the district access to that as well through a district dashboard. And what it is, it's a school bus parent-student tracking app. So, Mr. Wingate, if your child is riding the bus, you can program what bus he's on, what time the bus is to come to his stop, and you'll get text alerts and messages saying the bus is on time, the bus might be delayed, we might have a different bus due to preventive maintenance. So we can give you live time alerts that are personally affected to your particular student and child. First Feedback, which is the community feedback tracking program that we have. First Acts, which is a student behavior managing program that we have. And we are going down the road where all of our drivers will have onboard tablets where they can actually access directions, very high tech, and those are coming down the road as well. And finally, we're proud of the equipment that we're going to supply to you. 185 brand new state-of-the-art Type C buses right off the factory from Thomas. All these will be equipped with Zonar GPS units, which give us live time tracking that is accessible through a web base that actually could be shared with customers as well. Video recording units from our Seon vendor. We're going to have 6 per bus. And lastly, something that Thomas is actually starting to put into our fleet, it's collision avoidance system. And this is some technology very similar to what you're going to have in your automobiles. So if you have a lane transfer that you might be drifting, you'll get a signal. If there's your traveling distance is a little too close, you get alerts for that as well. So some terrific technology and equipment that's coming down the road. I'd like to talk a little bit about, if I could, that's our proposal in a nutshell, but Dennis alluded to something we're very proud of. It's called the Daily Dispatch. And what's terrific about Anita is our location manager in Dalton, and our locations will actually get a daily report that will measure certain KPIs and metrics. What's terrific about this, in my role as an area general manager, I get access to that report as well. So on a daily basis, Anita's going to get a report that's going to talk about who had a speeding event for the day, who had an idling event for the day, who might have had a hard braking or a rapid acceleration event. So these are things that she can have conversations with her folks to build a safety culture. And at the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to. And these are daily tools that we provide through our location managers to help them and assist them in managing driver behavior on a daily basis. Dennis, would you like to bring it home?
Good question. Excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are the 185 buses for this county? The 185 new Thomas buses would be in this location?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Well, I applaud you. When the first student was here before, there were a lot of mechanical problems, so I applaud you for making a change.
Thank you.
Now, could I ask you while you're here, do you have, no, I was saying you, sir, El Presidente, the CEO, we have, you have the same parent company as Durham in UK, is that correct?
No, sir, that is not.
It is not?
No, sir.
So you both have UK parent companies?
We both have UK parent companies, but they're different companies, yes.
Thank you.
I wanted to just close, but before I did so, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. What we've tried to say to you is we've been working on this a long time. Right. The things that we're talking to you about our safety culture, these are not things that are new to this organization. This isn't something that we're doing in reaction to something that has occurred, as tragic as the event was that was here. This is part of our culture. And let me also say that as tragic as the event was, there are tragic events that happen in spite of the best actions of any vendor. So to be very clear, I am not here to criticize our competitors. In fact, we were in a meeting when that occurred, and everyone in my meeting was in tears about that because we recognized how that hurt this community and it hurts the industry, and it's all of our responsibility. That's why First Student has been so committed to safety for such a long period of time. Now, again, I wish that I could say there will never be an accident, there will never be a problem. It's like driving your car every day when you leave home. You don't really know exactly what's going to happen. So all we can do, and I think safety is all about culture. It's about reinforcing, reminding, talking to people day in and day out. And I'll get Anita to come up here and talk to you in just a second because she works down in Dalton. And that's a community where that customer has done business with us for 20 years. That customer gives us a consistent rating of 10s on a 10-point scale. Why? Because Anita creates a level of culture and partnership and commitment to that community where they recognize that we are not just their vendor, but we're really their partner. The final couple of things I wanted to say. First View, everybody says that they have a version of First View, including our competitors. Here's what's different about our First View product. Number one, if you go to the Apple rating system, you'll see that that system is rated better than any of those systems that exist today. Number two, we have a district version of the First View, so you have something that parents can look at, but you also have something that the principal that's looking for the buses coming to their school can see. see. The administration can look and see where all of the buses are in the system. And by the way, the thing that none of our competitors can talk about is we have a manned operation in Cincinnati, where if you're a parent and you have a problem, you call us and you can get a live person on the phone about the position of that bus. Now, nobody else has that, so they can say whatever they want about their app, but they don't have the ability that you can actually engage with someone on a live basis. And then the final thing I wanted to talk about was this first acts. If you talk to our drivers, the number one, I'd say on one hand, the number one gripe, the number one challenge, the number one piece of adversity is being able to maintain control on that bus. So our drivers have this first acts tool. Now, they've gotten all of the training that Daryl talked about, de-escalation and, pupil management and all of those things. But they also have this first acts report, which is generated electronically to the individual school. And what that does is it facilitates conversation about those young people on the bus that are proving to be difficult to manage. So we can engage with the administration. The driver recognizes that there is going to be an effort. The administration then can electronically respond to us about the fact that they've talked to the young person or that they've engaged with them or whatever actions that they deem are necessary to correct the behavior. So again, we look at this as a real partnership, and these are things, I can say with all candor, these are things that this is just the way we do it. This is really the first student way. So with that, thank you again for your time today. I know we're pressed for time. We probably have gone over, so my apologies for that, but we have great passion for this work. We have great passion for this community, and we hope that you will consider us as your next partner to transport your students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions you might have, we'll be glad to field those.
You got one, Mr. McClendon?
I know you went over some of the benefits that you're giving for drivers if they were to come over. I know right now we kind of have a driver shortage and it affects our on-time rates and stuff like that. Do y'all have problems with that, and how do you address it in other areas? I don't know if Dalton has the same problems, but...
Well, Anita, where's Anita? Yeah, you should come up. So let me respond to the first part of your question. And I give you some specific data. The data always helps. On an ongoing basis, most school providers will run something around 98%, 98.5%, which means they'd have a 1.5% vacancy rate. So when we built our proposal for you, I believe we created a 10% spare factor. So what that does is says that we're going to try to hire about 10% more people than we really believe we need on a day in and day out basis. And by the way, to do the same thing with the equipment. Right? So if we have problems with the equipment, we've got spares and there's a rotational basis. So we take those buses out that are being PM'd and we put the spares in. We try to do the same thing with drivers. Now, to be really honest and candid with you about the driver situation in the U.S. and really Canada as well, there is a shortage of CDL certified drivers. And anyone that says any different than that is not being totally candid. There is a shortage of truck drivers. There is a shortage of local drivers. There is a shortage of service workers across the board, whether they're working at Target or doing CDL. The average age of drivers is about 50. 50% of drivers are in the school bus industry are women. We are not getting as many people being interested at this point in time, based on the strength of the economy, to take on the idea of driving school buses. Now, we believe that it's not a school bus issue, it's a CDL certification issue. We think, as the market leader, one of the things that I've personally been committed to is I think that school bus driver is as important as anybody else in this community. Why? Because first thing in the morning, he or she is the first adult that the kids in this community meet. So guess what? If that adult is engaging, they're positive, they're responsive, they know these kids by name, they make a real difference. They're the last adult for these kids to see before they go back home. How was your day today? How did you do on that test? How are you doing today? We'll see you tomorrow. Go home and get your homework done. That's kind of the culture that we want. Now, I'm not telling you, I have 55,000 people. I wish I could tell you everybody does it like that every single day, but that's our aspiration. That's our goal. So the reality is what we need to do as both the market leader and someone that needs a lot of CDL drivers is we have to get the message out about what an amazing profession this is. I did a lot of other things in my career before coming here 5 years ago. The intrinsic satisfaction that I get And I know that our drivers it becomes infectious. You fall in love with this business and you just do it. And we've just got to do a better job of talking about what the role of the driver is. It's not the stereotypical view that you might see on the evening news. These are people that make a difference in the community. Actually, 91% of superintendents across the U.S., as part of a survey we did with about 600 respondents, said that student transportation is the second most important aspect of a school day. Now, why is that? Because if the kids don't get to school, or they don't get home safely, it's a problem. So we understand the responsibility. Yes, there is a national issue. We're doing everything we can. We have raised rates tremendously, which is one of the reasons we came here with a higher rate than what you have today. We pay referral bonuses to our employees. We also do a fair amount of what we call employee welfare. So we have actions and activities that try to engage the driver corps and the monitors. We have events in the summers. We have events around the holidays. And the last thing that we did, and I'm pretty sure that this isn't done elsewhere, is we have created an employee app. And the reason the employee app is important, it goes on an employee's phone. We don't mandate it. But the reason that that's important is because it allows us to reach out and connect with them. See, these folks don't have email addresses that they can go to their offices and type in and get emails from me or from the person in charge. But the app actually facilitates an opportunity for us to stay connected to them, not only on a day-to-day basis, but during the summers, during breaks, when they're not in our purview for that particular period of time. So again, we're doing everything we can to try to address the issue. We bring in drivers. I talked about scale and size earlier. I don't like to do it, but if we have a really critical issue, we bring in drivers for that community. We have a headquarter-based team that does recruiting all over the U.S. Again, I don't think any of our competitors can talk about that approach to drivers. So we have regional recruiters in different markets. We have a headquarter-based team. So again, these are the kinds of things we're doing. Anita, can you talk at all about really culture and how that's important and how you do it?
Well, I've been in Dalton now for over 12 years, and when we just signed a new contract with them in June, that began in June. When we finish that contract, we will have been in Dalton for 20 years with never a rebid. They've just always renewed the contract because of our service there. My partner in Dalton, my customer, will tell you I only have one job in this whole company, and my one job is to make her look good. And so I desperately try to do that every day. But you do have to have a culture of letting the drivers know just how important they are to you. I'm out there when the drivers come in. Anytime the drivers are in my building or on my yard, I'm not in my office. I'm where they are. So they can tell me, not just about work stuff, but they may want to tell me what Grandpa did last night, and I listen to that. So we create a culture of letting them know that we care about them. This year for my startup meeting, which we had, obviously before school started, I began my meeting by letting them know just how important they were. The teachers can have all their in-service. Custodians can buff the floors. We can get it all ready. Cafeteria workers, all in place, and lunches are waiting for us. However, if those bus drivers don't get them to school, then nothing happens. So by creating a culture of letting them know just how important they are, it certainly helps with driver retention.
Thanks, Anita. One other final point, and Anita made me think about this. When I talk about culture, there's something that we initiated 3.5 years ago, and it's called Be Safe. What Be Safe is, we had a clinical psychologist come in and work with our organization around encapsulating what we meant when we said safety was important. So Be Safe culture, or Be Safe as a program, has become a way of business for us. So what it involves is someone like Anita, when she talks about being out on the yard, talking to drivers, that's because she's doing what we call touch points. And touch points, as it relates to Be Safe, are specific about safety performance. So we're talking to our drivers across the U.S. every day about safety. Those touch points are then recorded into a system where we can track it by location. At the end of each week, our managers do what are called debriefs. And this is where the management team at a location sits down with all of their managers and they talk about the touch points and key lessons and observations that they've made as they've engaged with their employees. Now, let me be really clear about this. Dennis Maple rides routes. Dennis Maple does touch points, and on a monthly basis, I do a debrief call with my senior executive team, but we also do one with managers from around the country at every level. So we'll invite location managers and AGM managers like Sean, and I'll sit down as the president of the business to talk about safety and what's important. And then finally, we have a safety call every month with Sean and all of his counterparts from around the country. Again, the idea of instilling this notion that safety is the number one critical thing that's important. Technology is great. Training is great. But if people don't recognize the importance and that they will be held accountable for safe performance, none of that stuff really matters.
Mrs. Lennon.
Other questions? Yeah.
And this might be for Anita. I just noticed in the RFP that they must be 21 years old. Do you think that that just seems so young to me to drive a bus full of children?
Sure.
Is that you deal with the drivers more? Is that too young?
So I don't think it's too young. I would tell you that the majority of drivers are not 21 years of age. You don't see that a lot across our business, and I would dare say you don't see it a lot across Durham's business for that matter. Most 21-year-olds are not really that interested in driving buses. But the Department of Transportation's regulations are that if you're 21 years of age, you can get a certified driver's license, and the training for a CDL license will equip that employee to be able to drive when you and I, unless we had CDLs, are not equipped or trained to drive a bus. So really the two things that I think are really important are selection, which is about the maturity of the individual candidate. I know some 50-year-olds that I wouldn't want driving buses for me, right? So I don't know that it's necessarily, Ms. Lennon, about age. I think it's really about the discipline to train, to select, to train, and then to monitor the behavior of the people that are doing the work for you. So it's a great question, though. There are some people that believe it should be younger. We as a industry leader have a position that says no. We've tested that in some markets, and actually it was successful. But I just don't fundamentally feel good about that personally. And if I don't feel good about it personally, my job is I can say no. So we have said no to that. But I appreciate your question. Thank you.
Mrs. Hill.
Thank you. A few very short questions. Dalton, are you working with Dalton Public Schools?
Yes.
Okay. How many buses do you run for Dalton Public Schools?
We run 48.
Okay. What's the average number of hours that your drivers get a day?
They're guaranteed 4. The majority of them get 4.5, some 5.
Okay.
But they're guaranteed 4.
Okay. And can you tell me about, in the people section of your document here, you mentioned the annual $10,000 educational contribution. Is that for an individual employee? Help me understand that.
That's an educational contribution that we will make to the school district for you to decide how you might want us to fund a particular function. In some of our locations, we fund a Teacher of the Year award. So working with the administration, we'll decide, what you want us to do, and that's what we will dedicate.
$10,000 education credit per driver would be a major. I think that would be.
And our costs would be.
No. He's a salesman. You're done talking right now.
I'm just bringing some good ideas.
Ms. Hill, thank you very much. By the way, I didn't tell you this because
remember me.
I'm going to remember you. And by the way, I've been a school board member, so I know exactly where you're coming from. Let me say this about the $10,000. I don't really care what the number is so much, right? I mean, we built into our proposal and anticipated $10,000 a year. What's really important about that is we want to be a part of this community. We want people to say, First Student is a partner with this community, with this school district. We care about kids. We care about families. We care about the community success. That's why we're doing that. We hope that you will partner with us in a way that allows us to demonstrate that we are supportive more than just driving buses every day. Because again, my view is if we're going to, I don't want to be critical of anyone, so let me be careful with this. But I would imagine that the way to build credibility with your parents and the broader community is for us to be an active partner in that community. And when we met with the selection team, we said to them, we're willing to partner. I have marketing people, I have communications people. We're willing to put together ways that we can engage. You know, I'll sit down with you guys periodically or someone on our team and talk about what's happening with the operation. We'll go out and talk to parents. We'll go to PTA meetings. But again, it takes a serious, it just takes a cultural commitment to being partners. I don't want to come here and be your vendor. And in fact, if you just want a different vendor, then we're probably not the one you want, because I want to be engaged in this community. It was one of the things I had to think really long and hard about before we even responded to your RFP. You know, is the community going to be ready for us to be a partner and not just a replacement vendor? So that's something that's very important to us personally. It doesn't work if we're the vendor. It really doesn't. Thank you very much for your question.
Dr. Highlander.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
All right. Anybody else? We good? Thank you all very much.
All right. Thank you
Greatly
very much.
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move to our agenda review here, and I'll take that. Dr. Johnson, whenever you're ready, you got anything here you want to go ahead and talk about, and then we will open it up for inquiries about the agenda.
Yeah, so just a few things that are before you. Obviously, the first part of it's pretty self-explanatory. Excited about the exemplars of excellence. There will probably, Sherry was flagging for me today, there'll probably be an amendment. We had some wrestlers that participated in the state tournament that placed, and Brad Jackson was back and forth with us, so there will probably be an amendment. We want to make sure we recognize them just as a heads up. But then also you see there our Miss Basketball, which I think was the first time since like the mid-90s we've had one of those. So excited about that. You see the delegations that are there. The presentation this month will be around the arts. Claire Stockman will give an update in regards to the additional arts opportunities that we've provided in connection to the work within Future Ready 2023. So when you get into the consent agenda, there are some field trips that exist, and none are out of country this month. And I'm trying to go through here. None are out of country. There are several athletic and club related that are going on, as well as exceptional education has some field trips going on as well. As far as bids and contracts, anything Brent or Christy you all want to highlight within there, and obviously any questions that you all may have as a board, we want to answer those this time as well.
I've got, you ready for inquiries there? Just the SRO contract. And Christy, I know you had mentioned something about this earlier. So will you guys kind of explain to me, I think Dr. Bradshaw, the memo came, looks like, from you, kind of where we are here. So funding for 7 additional SROs, correct? And that's to start immediately, or what?
Christy, I can. This is kind of the cleanup of what we initiated in our last budget cycle, just kind of going back and forth with the county and cleaning up and addressing. Actually, I believe just about all, if not all, of those SROs are already on the ground. So all of our middle schools are covered, all of our high schools are covered, and then we have at least one in each learning community to support the elementary schools. What we've done in the elementary schools is try to place them in the largest elementary school in the learning community with with the understanding that they are to be deployed across, that particular learning community. So this is just the technical cleanup and kind of back and forth. Scott had some feedback with that. Anything to add, Christy or Brent?
No, sir. We just needed to get a contract in place because this is the first time we've done this.
We've been invoiced by the Sheriff's Department, but we cannot pay them until this contract is approved.
Okay.
Right.
And one more thing on that. So these are the SROs that we decided last summer that, hey, from the budget, we're going to go ahead and make.
Yes, correct. So we funded the position. Obviously, the sheriff, there's a whole training and selection identification process. It takes them a little while to find. You don't want anybody being an SRO because they're engaging with students, so you have to have the right disposition. They have finally identified those people, got them trained, and they actually, I think, were all filled as we started second semester. And so that process is still pretty fluid. They'll have some. I know there's one at a particular school, I believe in the Opportunity Zone, that has or will be going on military leave, already done, squared away, replacement in place. So these are just filling those 7 that we funded.
Just to make it clear for the public, these are things that we approved for this year, but the sheriff said it would take a while to get them in place. And did we fund it for the whole year or part of the year? I'm trying to remember.
The full year.
So what are we doing with the extra funds that we had?
Yeah. So we pay for the portion of time that they've started.
Right. But the extra funding, do you know what we're using that money for?
We're just now to the point where we can calculate that because of getting so that will be coming back.
Thank you. I'm glad you made it aware that the public, this is not something new. This is something we approved in the last budget cycle.
Correct. Big things within.
I was just going to ask. I was just trying to keep up with where we were here, doing it on my phone. These old eyes. This appropriation of fund balance for technology. That's already the technology that we had already approved before. That's about a $5 million hit there. So I'm sure that it probably is.
Yes, ma'am. All of that's in fund balance that had been previously committed.
Okay.
This is just the board's appropriation, so we can write a purchase order.
Okay, that's what I need. Thank you.
The CAFR is available. That's been on the county website. Anything there, Brent or Christy, you want to discuss within the CAFR?
No, sir. Clean opinion.
You say clean opinion?
Yeah. Good. It's good.
All right. Anything in regards to federal grants or self-funded?
For some reason, the general operating budget transfers, only the first page was recorded on the electronic version. So I placed a paper copy at your seat. And all this is just our normal transfers between accounts. Many times it's just a change of a function. It's not like we're not asking for any money or anything like that.
While folks are looking over that, I had a question about item 8D4B. It was the federal grants and self-funded programs, just the language there as far as the amended items. Christy, will you just explain to me what that is quickly? It was about in regards to the federal programs and then also the self-funded programs. There were some amended items there.
Yes, sir. Every month we bring our budget amendments. We may receive additional funds from various supporting agencies. Most likely it's additional funds from the state or the federal funders.
All right.
Christy, a pre-K appropriation, anything you want to hit on that, the state grant amendment?
In our budget notebook last year, we estimated our appropriation just slightly lower than the amount of money that we actually got. We have to put on our books the exact amount of money that we got for our pre-K funding, and so that's the $29,000 increase that you see here.
And then
can I ask a question about the pre-K programs here? Christy, do we have to, I'm sure we do have to fill out paperwork about these pre-K programs, and how much of that the state funds? Do the state fund all of these pre-K programs? Do we have guidelines, I'm sure, to go by who can attend the pre-Ks and all that kind of thing?
These are the state-funded pre-Ks that we've had for several years, and
okay, but so the state guidelines that say who's supposed to go, is this for our pre-K program just across is this for the is this just for anyone to go to? Is this for the
VPK? This is VPK, correct? Voluntary pre-K,
right.
And there's a certain financial threshold.
Right, that was my question.
That's
There's
correct.
a financial threshold. Does everybody adhere to that? Because I know some people on these pre-K programs that I don't think would qualify for being. I'm just concerned that there are a lot of children that their parents can't afford pre-K, some younger single moms that or kids are not able to get in there because our positions are taken up by other people.
These pre-K are actually these are state funded. There are some voluntary pre-K that are self-funded.
Yeah.
There are maybe just
that we provide space for. See, I think that this is one that we have some voluntary pre-Ks that are self-funded that we provide space for, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I think this board, it would do well. I would like to see a list of the ones that are voluntary, how much they pay, how much space they're taking up in our school system, especially if they're in schools that are maxed out in space. And do they have to follow the same criteria as the other pre-Ks? Because like I say here again, I'm more concerned about the single moms that children really need to be in pre-K that may not be able to afford it themselves. I think that's what this pre-K program was actually set up for. And I'm just not real sure that that is what we're doing in these voluntary pre-Ks that we're providing space for. And I would just like to know where those classes are, how many are there, and how much it's costing, and what the tuition is for people to have their children there.
So can I clarify what you're asking for us to get you? You're talking about programs that are at.
Yeah, first of all, I want to know what the state guidelines are, or who's supposed to be in the state-funded ones. Mm-hmm. And in the privately funded ones, which schools are they in? How many students are there? How much is it costing us? I mean, we have, does that money stay in those schools? Does that money come back into our general fund? I mean, we have water, we have heat, we have equipment, we have all kinds of things. And like I say, if we're going to provide those, if we are doing what this board always says, that we're looking out for some of the less fortunate children to be able to attend pre-K because their parents can't afford it otherwise, I think those are the people we need to be concerned about, because a lot of the rest of us can afford to put our children in pre-K, and I don't think it's something we need to be providing just for administrators' kids or for school teachers' children. I think that we need to, if we're going to be providing that, it needs to be something countywide that the county can certainly benefit from.
One other thing I want to point out for clarification, make sure I'm not confusing it. There are some, you have to help me, daycare sites that are in schools that I know that a lot of teachers and administrators want to, but we're not talking about those.
No, well, it wouldn't hurt this board to know where all those are as well, and how many students are in there, because they do take up, matter of fact, even when we build schools now, we even build whole sections for those students that also cost money when we're building a school, that we provide. We put special sinks in, independent bathrooms for those students, aside from the bathrooms from the regular students. So, it's costing us money, and I just want to be up front and make sure everybody's aware of everything that's going on.
Dr. Highlander.
Dr. Robertson can back me up, and maybe Ms. Levine also, but on the state specifications, and I know what Ms. Thurman's, I understand what she's saying. The way I understand it, there are two different types of classroom qualifications that I've looked up. One is, as you say, is purely economic need, for an underprivileged family. Also, there are special needs children that are within the state guidelines, and in that state guidelines, they provide for a regular ed student to be paired in that room with the special needs student. And now what I'm unclear on is how that regular ed kid, that regular ed child is picked to be paired in there, whether it's, I'm not sure. Am I correct on that?
Some of the locations, that's the purpose of our in-house pre-Ks, is because we're moving towards an inclusive environment. And
right.
So by having typical peers that come in, we're able to help support learning environments for
correct.
Students with disabilities.
That's my understanding.
But we can get, I know what you're asking, and we'll get that. The 30, I think it's 34. I was trying to add up the number real quick of like the state and title funded pre-Ks are separate from what Thurman is asking about. And the state, and there is and I'll get the number of what where you fall on the economically disadvantaged scale, but you're asking about something separate.
Go, Ms. Jones.
But for clarification purposes, pre-K, I think I'm kind of struggling with the whole.
We're talking about pre-K and daycare. What Ms. Thurman's talking about, we do.
No. I wasn't done. Sorry, Justin. No, what I think for clarification purposes for the community is that pre-K is not something that I know. Pre-K is a big thing right now anyway. We know early learning is a big thing right now. But it's my understanding professionally and personally that we're not just trying to ensure that those who can't afford pre-K get pre-K, but the whole goal is that we have universal pre-K so that all kids are ready no matter what your demographic is, right? I'm saying not Hamilton County, I'm saying societal wise.
Yeah.
That's the goal, right? So I want to just make sure that the community understands that, because there's a whole lot of talk, because there is so much talk about access and who needs to be there and why they need to be there, that the community understands that we as a Board of Education understand that it's universal for all kids. And although whatever we do here in Hamilton County is what we've chosen to do here as a board, and we would look into that. We do have I hope my peers have the understanding that universal pre-K is what we're going for here as a society, and not just those that are less fortunate.
Yeah, and to your point, what we know is that only 2 in 5 students in our Hamilton County schools are ready to learn. And then we see that when you get to third grade, the mastery on track percentage is roughly 33.5 or so percent. And the state average is about 35%. So we mimic the state in that regard, but then that same proficiency rate, it really permeates the grade bands in reading language arts. And so, it is something that we have to continue. But I think the point is duly noted. One, we want to make sure the board completely understands where those programs are. Two, we need to look closely at who those programs are serving and what that demographic looks like. And I think it's a good exercise. So it's not a problem at all.
But just for the record, I'm not for universal pre-K. That's not my whole point of asking about this. I'm not going to push for pre-K. Number one, we don't have anywhere to put them. Number two, we're just responsible for K through 12, so pre-K. But if we're going to run a pre-K program, I want to be sure that we're following the guidelines of the state and that we're not taking money from Hamilton County taxpayers to fund something that is not their responsibility. If we're going to do it, I want to be sure we're doing it like we're supposed to do it. And it's full transparency for everyone, that everyone has access to the programs that are here, and that the parents know what it is. And like I said, I just don't I'm not pushing for pre-K because I, for one, think that kids are in school start too early, and you were just overburdening the kids a lot of times. And I can get a lot of data to prove that as well, Dr. Johnson, from teachers that have been there for years and years about how much we're piling on these kids way too early. But anyway, that's not my point to push for universal pre-K. My point is just, if we're going to have them, I want everybody to follow the guidelines.
All right, I do have one more question there on the, and I think I saw the answer in the agenda, but on the request for the grant-funded position, for the part-time literacy and RTI. Is that what's also referenced? Did you? Oh, you did pull it?
I think I hadn't been updated yet. I think we're pulling that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good deal.
But at some point it will be coming back, but we pulled it this month.
Okay.
And reason being is, just so I'm really clear on why the pool, we want to go through the state approval process, and then we'll bring back to the board. We were trying to expedite the process to get the resources there, but we're going to get the state to go ahead and approve it within the Grant Preston and his team. We'll do that, and then we'll bring it back to the board on the opposite end. So just reversing it. I think the last big thing. Anything you want to mention on this, Christy? On this. This.
Oh, the CAFR. Oh, yes.
The school.
Yeah, well, you actually got both of our audits this time. As soon as I get the printed copy of the CAFR, you'll have it. But in your packets, you should have received the printed copy of the school activity fund audits. So we have two sets of audits books that y'all will have. The school activity funds, which lists the financial statements in every school. That's their funding, and then the CAFR, which is the county's audit report, and we are a component unit of the county.
And Justin, real quick, if you would hit the special course approval from Jamie.
We're in the process of trying to clean up our course code. So generally, with special course requests, we have schools that send in individual course requests, and the state's working on this as well. So this moment, what we're doing is submitting district-wide special course requests. This is basically you just saying, this is an approved list. We would still have to go to the state, submit it, write the proposal, all that, and get it back from the state. But we are trying to significantly reduce the number of special course requests and use the course codes that the state's providing. And it's just an ongoing process.
I've got a question. So is the Howard High School easement going to be on? Will that be there?
Do we? Yeah, the easement.
Yes, it should be.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll check with Justin to verify.
And we approved the improvement.
Yes.
What we approved the easement last time was that East? It wasn't East Lake, or was that Howard?
It was Howard. It was for the funds to go to Howard.
Okay.
And so the city has purchased that easement or whatever it is. The funds are there, so the funds are ready to go to Howard.
Okay.
Christy, are you required to print this massive thing for us? Is there any legal reason for us to have 200 and?
Oh, you should already have a printed copy. They came to we get those when they when the auditor completes them.
Oh.
So.
No, I was going to say, can I opt out and just use the?
You can. That's why you got it both ways. Everybody received an electronic version, and
I haven't
if you
received
have
that
not
document.
I'm sorry, you have not.
I have not received a printed copy of that.
Okay, well, they are available for you, and we have 9 copies
already printed,
or 10 copies already. The audit already printed them, and.
Oh, I will, and then I have an opportunity to stick a Post-it on something.
They have electronic posters, Jenny. I have one on my laptop.
All right. Any other questions about the agenda? All right. So I think Dr. Highlander, you say you had an announcement.
I just very brief. Some of you may be more knowledgeable than I, but I did sit in with the new Speaker of the House, and he laid out simplistically the governor's voucher plan. And so I'm not saying I'm for it. I'm just saying that I'm familiar with it's not exactly what I was expecting, but and you all may be more familiar, but definitely not to vote on. This is nothing to vote on. It's an information only. If any of you would like to contact me for information on that, I will give you what I know.
In our class call on Friday, which I apologize, haven't gotten the notes sent out to everybody, they were saying that at least as of Friday, there was virtually no actual detail related to the plan.
Well, I got some.
You got some. Well, if you'll email us, that would be awesome.
I'm not sure about email, but
Oh, okay.
I'd rather verbally.
Okay.
Or I'll just tell you right now. Do you want me to just tell you? Let me just tell you now. Let me just be open and transparent and tell you right now. The way it was explained to me today, what the governor is proposing is based on low-income students only. He's looking at a trial period of 5,000 students across the state, and they will give a $7,300 credit card voucher that parents can take to the private school of their choice. And I'm sure that will no comment. Sorry, no, I'm not going to comment. And that also they will only be available. The students in the lowest 10% achieving schools across the state are the only ones that are eligible. And they will be tested to see if their progress improves the year that they are in the private school as opposed to there. He did not go into specifics of who will do the testing, if it's the same testing other children have or whatever, but that was the way it was explained to me, and I certainly listened in closely on that.
Yeah.
And I'm not making a positive or negative comment. It's just information that I received.
So 5 districts, what we know right now, 5 districts could be impacted. We're one, obviously Memphis Metro, Knox, ourselves, as well as Jackson Madison. And what they looked at was school districts with 3 or more schools in the bottom 10%. So those are the 5 that could be adversely impacted, and so I think there's a lot of question that still exists. Accountability is important. Accountability has been made important to us as a public school system, and that's where I'll leave that. I know the board has taken a stance on vouchers, and that's where it is.
Any other announcements? Meeting adjourned.
Because